Good morning and welcome to Hearing Conversations. This is episode 4. Exciting.
That happened.
I have my co-host here, Liz Lewington. And today we're talking about, is your parent showing signs of dementia? What are the behaviors to watch for? Now, Liz, I don't know about you, but this is one of my favorite topics to talk about because everyone has a very unique journey along the dementia trajectory, and there's still lots that we are learning. So, let's kick it off. Oh, I should introduce, before we get started, we have a guest speaker today.
Jen.
Exciting.
Yeah, she is an experienced caregiver. A lot of education for us all can come from this woman. So it's good, exciting to have her on. Should we dive into some statistics around dementia and what it looks like for the Canadian population? So every day, more than 350 people in Canada receive a dementia diagnosis. Now, I know you know that the dementia diagnosis comes well into the journey. There can be signs that for years and years, and even people that as a nurse, when you walk in and you're talking with them, they present as somebody with dementia. And if you rule out everything else, you know that this person has dementia and they don't even have a diagnosis on their file, which is really tragic because there can be a lot that can improve that as well. But in 2024, 8.7% of Canadians over 65 have some form of dementia. So 8.7% over 65. And we know that it's trending younger and younger as well.
Scary.
Yeah, it is really scary. Yeah, it used to be so uncommon, but now it's actually sort of part of the usual suspects for us that when there's a memory concern for younger folks. More than 25 different diseases can cause dementia. As we know, dementia is that umbrella term that has so many different causes that live underneath of it. And unfortunately, these are all degenerative diseases that cause that memory loss. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia, and 40% of dementia cases worldwide could be preventable. So that's through lifestyle changes, dietary changes, improvements in like exercise and hydration and reducing other causes like alcohol use. And then, of course, like you can't reduce traumatic brain injuries, but we know that damage caused to the brain, even small damage through the years, can cause a dementia as well. So that's those are some really sad statistics that we are aware of here in Canada. And we know that it is marching towards a bottleneck where our healthcare system is going to be, or is going to continue to be, really in a distress. So we need to understand how to prevent it, but also to care for the people that we have right now that are experiencing dementia from various causes as well, supporting the family that's in there day after day caring for this person. So, did you want to jump in? What's your how does it differ from normal aging? Is dementia part of a normal aging process?
Yeah, so dementia is definitely not part of the normal aging process. I think that's a kind of misnomer. I think a lot of people do think that it is part of the normal aging process, but not everyone is diagnosed with dementia. Not everyone shows signs of dementia. It starts, I think, with that short-term memory loss, right? Where, you're starting to see that mom or dad maybe can't remember something, and maybe it's your name, maybe it's your grandkid's name. And it usually starts really small. And like you said, really starts early in the process. And then maybe you notice that they're doing some odd behaviors, things that they wouldn't normally do, or like getting to the grocery store and then, hi, Jen.
Hi.
Getting to the grocery store and not knowing how to get home. And then, maybe there's also some mood changes, like being really frustrated, maybe with these short-term memory losses, with this disorientation. It definitely is not part of the normal aging trajectory. And I think that really needs to be clear. But I do think, as you mentioned earlier, Liz, is that it is becoming more and more prevalent.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's for so many reasons. We're living longer lives, exposure to all kinds of different chemicals, that sort of thing can actually increase your chances of dementia.
Technology, who knows what that is doing to our brains, right?
And you're worried. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we want to jump in with Jen and see where
Yeah,
we can?
let's talk
Yeah,
to Jen.
dig in. Jen, you have been a carrier. It was it 20
It's
years? You
aging
were
me.
saying
Close to
20
that, yeah.
years. Okay, well,
Yeah.
when you were 7, so that was yeah, as a child.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you worked with people that have
Yep.
dementia in facility
Facilities. And
settings. Is that right?
I
Yeah.
did a program in Ontario called behaviour support. And so I was kind of one of the leading caregivers starting that program in the nursing home. So it was just kind of learning about behaviors surrounding, like dementia surrounding behaviors and that kind of stuff, and how to manage them and that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Excellent. Do you have any input as to how dementia differs from the normal aging process, or what sort of initial behaviors that people can start looking for in
Well, I
their
think a
loved
lot
ones?
of it is just the forgetfulness. I mean, seeing them not being able to finish sentences, or forgetting things, repeating themselves, repeating stories. There's a lot, you can see that kind of decline there, and it's and kind of covering themselves up, right? Like a lot of them try to cover up their own thoughts and cover how they're feeling. So it's like you just gotta kind of keep an eye on them and make sure that they understand that this is happening, right? And get tested. I think a lot of it in the nursing homes, though, they're already coming in with dementia, right? And so I think the biggest thing to remember is that all behavior has meaning. So even though they may be acting out or having that, those behaviors, you got to make sure that you understand that you can kind of help them through it and figure out what it is. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I think, what you said there, that every behavior has a meaning. It's jumping forward a little bit, and that's great. I want to talk to you about it because, every behavior does have a meaning. And I think a lot of times we label it as aggression, whether it be physical or verbal aggression. So share with us like what that looks like and why we're calling it a behavior, and maybe a challenging behavior versus an
When you have, residents with dementia, they don't quite understand what they're doing. I mean, they're living in a world that they're not understanding. They're in, sometimes they're on their own little area and they're not quite sure what's, and you gotta kind of live in their world and help them through it, right? They don't know why they're yelling out. They don't know why they're being aggressive. They're scared. There's these people coming into their rooms that are trying to help them and change them and do things for them, and they're not quite getting why that is happening. And it can be hard on them, right? And so that's how they react. That's how they act out. They don't understand that they're being aggressive. They don't feel that they're being aggressive. They just don't have a clue who you are. You're this random person coming in and trying to do these things for them. And it's like, no, don't get out of my house. I'm looking for my children. I don't know who you are or where I am. And so now you're making this more scary because you're trying to tell me to do something and I'm not wanting to listen to you. They don't understand where they are in their life and that they are needing that help. So it can come across.
Yeah. And it's that fight or flight, right? It's that fight or flight. And it's a natural part of being that disoriented. You don't know where you are. You don't, like you say, you don't know who that person is or why they're coming in. And you're going in as someone who wants to help them, but if you can't approach them in a calm and comforting way, and that's really the part that needs to be at the forefront when you're doing any personal care, is approaching them with a calm and comforting fashion, taking it easy on them. You don't have to go in and say it's time for your bath, and whether you like it or lump it, you're going to go have a bath. It has to be a slow conversation where you make them feel comfortable, and getting to know who they actually are and being able to speak to them about their kids. So like you said, and I'm jumping in, sorry, Melissa. But you're there and it's 3:00 and maybe they feel like they have to go pick their kids up. So, those white lies that we tell are always benevolent. It's always for the good cause. You're going in and you're saying it's 3:00, but don't remember your sister's picking up the kids and they're going for ice cream. So we can go and have a bath right now. And then you'll feel like $1 million when they get home later. And that is unfortunately a conversation that I've had many times. But it makes them feel comforted. You're speaking to them in their time frame where they feel like they are in their reality and living in their reality, instead of always saying, no, that's not what's happening, mom, dad, or loved one, or person that I'm caregiving for. You don't want to always be correcting them. If it's not a safety concern, live
Yeah, I was
in
going to say
their
that you can live in their
reality.
reality, live in their moment, allow them to feel
Yeah.
validated, right? If you validate their feelings and don't make them feel like they're not making sense, then that they're going to be more receptive to taking care from you and to getting that help. So,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we can't forget that dementia is a disease, right? It's not a personality trait. It's a disease. This is not an intentional behavior. We talk a lot about unmet needs, right? And I'm sure this resonates a lot with Jen, and like trying to figure out what the background is behind this. Like, I had a client many years ago that suffered a drowning, and would not get into the shower. Absolutely would not get into the shower. And it was a fight every day. And then, appreciating where that person is coming from, and, understanding like this is a legit fear of water. How can we change this crucial task, to being something that's maybe a little bit more pleasant?
yeah.
Jen, do you have any
Oh yes,
examples of that?
I had a resident who, same idea, right? She was traumatized from water when she was a kid, and every time you put her in the shower, she would get very aggressive and strike out, punch. And so we finally made it more of like a spa. We had a tub, and we'd allowed her to walk into the tub, and we had the TV going and allowed her to fill the water as high as she wanted to fill it, and gave her the washcloth and allowed her to do the process, right? If you were kind of forcing her in there and making her do it, it was not fun. But if you made it her idea and allowed her to control it all, right? She took control of everything, then she slowly would allow you. It didn't work every time, and nothing ever works every time, and you can try to redirect multiple times, but in the end, she just needed that control, not feeling like you are forcing her into something that scared her, right? And a lot of dementia residents are afraid of water. There's that fear of, and it's also getting undressed in front of everybody, right? Give them towels, let them have that privacy and that feeling like you're not just all standing around while she's in the tub with no clothes on. It's uncomfortable for them. Males, men don't want you to see them. It's their privacy. It's their, so allowing them. We had a gentleman who used to only bathe in his bathing suit because he did not want to make it in front of you. So we allowed him to do that, right? And then you would give him that moment. You kind of step away and allow him that privacy. And then he felt much better. And you can leave them. You could just give him that little bit of privacy. So tubs work better than showers sometimes. The water on your head can be intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned a word that I think is really important for us to talk about is redirection. Yeah. So tell us, to the non-healthcare providers, what that
Redirection
looks like.
is not telling somebody they're doing something wrong. Like we have what you call the shoppers, and I know that we've talked about this before. They wander into rooms. They could go and do things that you're not quite, that they're not appropriate. And instead of trying to tell them that they're wrong, don't do that. Redirect them. Show them something that they're interested in. Get to know them. Here's your album, your photo album, or let's go this way and have a look over at your pictures on the wall over here, and let me talk to me about them. And that helps to kind of bring them down to that calmer level so that you can then reapproach whatever task you needed them to do. Because if you're just constantly pushing and harassing, once again, you're taking away their bit of independence that they might feel they have. And that can cause a lot of aggression, anger, striking out, behaviors that they wouldn't normally come out with, right? So it's redirecting them to a happier spot to kind of get their minds refocused.
Yeah.
Yeah, geez. Sorry, Liz. I just think just how you presented that, like it becomes harassment and you're forcing them. I do not have dementia, not diagnosed anyways. I'm very forgetful these days, but, even me hearing that like makes me think I would absolutely lash out. Like, I don't think it requires a diagnosis. I think it's so much the approach, whether it's dementia or just care for people. Yeah. Anyways, Liz, sorry about that. I jumped in.
Oh no, I was just going to basically say what you said there. Yeah, it is. It's the idea of, you know what, we can do this care, but we can take our time. And if you're not ready for it, leaving the area and then giving it time so that they can calm down. And they may not remember what you're about to do, what's going on, but they remember the way you make them feel. Folks with dementia still, like, their limbic system, that emotional core is still intact. So they may not remember your face, but they will connect the way that you make them feel when you come into the room. So if you approach them with respect and kindness and get to know who they actually are, so that you can change the conversation. So knowing who their loved ones are, the name of their loved ones, and then they can say, you can tell them, oh, it's 3:00. They're going to their auntie's place, and you tell them the name, it's Melissa and Jen. Don't worry, Melissa and Jen are going to their auntie's place after school, so we can go and do these things. So getting to know that the core of the person, and then giving them time and respect, and letting them be, like you said, involved as much as physically possible, as much as it's safe. Giving them options like, did you want to wear this shirt or this shirt? Not saying, hey, go pick what you want to wear. That's overwhelming. But giving options that are safe options. You're not going to let them go in and put a bikini on in the winter. You're going to give them the option of 2 sweaters, right? So letting them have that decision making as much as possible, so that they have that pride in the sense of who they are and have that little bit of themselves back. And everyone's different. Absolutely, everyone's different. And even their journey changes. So you can know somebody 1 week, and then you come in after your vacation, and maybe their mobility has altered, and maybe they can't do these things for themselves. So you now have to approach it differently to support them to be able to help manage their care with their abilities.
So to say, you can try a new person, right? I mean, sometimes when you have somebody who is very aggressive or does not like you may trigger something in their mind from the past, so you look like somebody that they're not happy with, right? Try somebody else, try a different approach to it. And so you're just kind of trying anything you can, and keeping them calm to get that care that they need.
Wow. Yeah. And like you said,
what about the... Oh, sorry.
Go for it. No, go for it. I was just going to say, like, with disease, this is not who they are. And I always like to say, this isn't your loved one. This is a disease running the show now. So you can't treat them the way that you were historically. And you can't, a lot of folks, before they get the dementia diagnosis, or just after, like in that sort of lull where no one really knows how to approach this, they have an innate requirement to tell their loved one you're wrong. That's not them. And then all it does is trigger those behaviors, because you get defensive. You do when someone's telling you you're wrong all the time, or you already said that, or don't do that. That's not what you're supposed to do. Like, cut that out. That's not the approach that's going to get you somebody that's happy with seeing your face again, Yeah. Sorry, Melissa, I cut you off.
No, all good. I think just to your point, Liz, how do you talk to families, Jen? Like, how do you bring families up to speed with what they're seeing, what they're dealing with, and what
I
their
was going
loved
to
one
say
is
is a lot of
dealing with?
families are almost embarrassed by the way their loved one is acting, and that's not who mom is. That's not who dad was. I don't know why they're doing that. You just remind them that it's not them doing that; it's the disease doing it, and we are okay with it, and we understand it, and we can help them through it. Don't be upset by it. I mean, they're going to change. They're not going to be the same people. A lot of what I've heard is that people who are very calm and, quiet during their lives are the most loud and aggressive and angry ones, right? There's that big change between them. And so you just kind of make sure that you're letting them understand that it's okay, and that we've worked through it, and that they need to accept mom or dad as this new individual, and don't try to make them feel like they should be as they were before, right? This is the new norm, and we just kind of have to learn to deal with each behavior as it comes. We need to learn to deal with them and their repetitiveness. And if it becomes frustrating, walk away, right? Don't feel like you need to come and visit every day. Take that time for yourself to get away and allow us to kind of care for them, because we don't really know them from before. And now this is who we know. Allow us that time, and just don't feel upset by it, because I mean, they're still your mom, they're still your dad, but they're going to be a little bit different. So it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think there's that grieving process again, right? And so, yeah, I mean, Liz, do you have any questions for Jen? I don't want to monopolize Jen and her expertise here.
No. I mean, Jen's expertise is definitely a different. You have, I mean, an immense skill set. So going in to see a client, if they do have these aggressive behaviors, what's sort of like your first thought on what's causing it? If you go in and they're agitated and the person is aggressive, you can't see any outside overt cause of it. What's your
There
approach?
could
How
be
do
an
you?
internal pain. A lot of pain presents itself as aggression. They don't understand how to get those words out saying, I have a headache today, or I'm feeling tired, or they're just not able to kind of portray that anymore. So I think kind of making sure that there's no underlying pain issues. Bowels is a huge one. If they need to use the bathroom and they don't know how to do it, or they don't know how to get there, is that privacy thing again, right? Take them to the bathroom, allow them that time, and then just kind of redirect with those things that kind of make them happy, right? As I said, photo albums are huge, very huge. Like going through those past memories and looking through the things that they enjoy, read through a book that they used to enjoy, and kind of figure it out that way on how to kind of settle them. Chat with families, right? They will understand a bit more as well about the background. So I think just making sure pain is a huge trigger, though, for sure.
And then bathroom, going to the bathroom. Yeah. And it can be something little, like their clothing is not fitting right, or their brief is on, sideways or crooked. It really is. You do have to become a
Or even their
detective when
hair.
you're
They
a
don't have their
caregiver.
hair the way they want it, and they don't feel comfortable, right? Their lipstick.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Or their
exactly. Their lipstick
lipstick.
for the day, right?
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
a gentleman who likes to be
Yeah.
shaved, and he's got a stubble that doesn't make him happy, but he's not able to say, "Can I have a shave?" Right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why that care planning component, when you're going in as a caregiver and you find something that really hits today, it's okay. They were agitated. I found the shaver and I said, "Hey, is this what's going on?" And there was acknowledgement that they wanted to be shaved, and you got him shaved, and he was peaceful, and he was calm, and he was able to enjoy a meal with you, and creating that care plan. So following through, and communication. So talking to the family, like, this is what happened today. And I found that if we offered a shave every day, before breakfast, he'll eat, and he'll eat well that time. So let's try that, and creating that care plan. So continuous communication. And as it evolves, we evolve too. So not just setting up one care plan and walking away, always, reinvestigating behaviors as they change, and knowing that this is not, and everyone's trajectory is so different. You could have dementia, like Alzheimer's disease is sort of, it's normally a slow progression with some sort of predictable trajectory. But if we're like Wernicke's or Korsakoff's, or like even a combination dementia where there's various causes, like if there's a heart issue, that kind of thing. If things are exacerbating those issues, the dementia takes this massive dive. So knowing that you may have an infection and they take a massive dive, or if they've gone under anesthetic, you're going to have a massive change. And knowing that you need to continuously revisit, what does that care plan look like? How are we caring for this person in the most appropriate way and honoring who they are? It makes you such a good caregiver, and it makes you such a good partner to the family to be able to say, this is the way that they're responding to this today. And I know that this was the way that they were, but now we have to move forward, and this is the care that we're giving, and it is beneficial to this person.
Jen, can you give us some examples of activities that are good to enhance well-being and maintain that cognitive
Yes, so through the
status?
BSO, the Ontario project that I did, we did a Montessori program. So Montessori is very important with dementia residents. We did a lot of towel folding, cleaning, right? Give them a broom. They like to do the things that they used to do, washing the dishes, folding clothes and putting them away. We did a lot of lifestyle stations. And so that it kind of gave them that ability to kind of live as they used to. We had like a makeup table where you could sit and do makeup, a baby station. Some really enjoyed taking care of those babies and being that mothering role still, because that's kind of what that mentality that they're in, right? And so I think meaningful activities is huge. Don't just give them like silly little tasks to do. Allow them to feel like they're accomplishing something, and it makes them feel better that they've done something for that day. Because imagine not knowing where you are, just wandering all day long and not feeling like you have anything to do with society anymore. So it kind of gives them those meaningful things that they're helping and assisting, setting the tables. Like there was a lot of things that we used to do with our residents in the homes that would make them feel it was kind of their jobs of the day, and it became like a happy moment of their day. So.
Yeah, those purposeful activities for sure, where there is some fulfillment. And I think we often will overestimate potentially or underestimate as well, right, of their capabilities, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating. Where they go and there's wheelchair bowling, and they're like, well, I walked in here and I'm totally fine. Like that, this is tedious, and I don't want to do this. And on the other hand, it may be someone who is nonverbal, and coloring is an activity that
big,
is something
Don't
enjoy
make them
doing.
feel childish,
Yeah.
right? I mean, they need to still feel like it. We had a lot of residents that would say, I don't color, that's a child's job, But then some that just absolutely loved it because it was that little getaway and it just kind of made them feel happy. But yeah, each resident's going to be different.
Yeah.
What about music, Jen? Have you ever had
Music
experience
therapy
with
is really
music?
good. Bringing up those songs that they can remember and they can sing to, and we've had residents who are completely nonverbal, and you put on music and you can see them just bopping their head, and they know that, right? And it's bringing back those happy memories. Yeah.
I know, don't you just love that moment when you put the music on and you can see, I mean, as a relatively cognitively intact human, that feeling of a song from when you were younger, it hits. I know I'm old, so the grocery store is like where I get my jams nowadays.
Nowadays, right?
Grocery store is just wow. So knowing that you put that music on and it's connecting again to that part of that person that is still absolutely intact, and seeing somebody, tapping their hand on the table or tapping their foot, as a nurse or a caregiver, you look around the room and you can see the smile on everyone else's face just by seeing someone who's nonverbal or seen as someone who can't participate in life, and they're there and they're experiencing that music. It feels so good. Yeah, I just love it. Yeah.
I think, Jen, from my perspective, being under your care and that empathy that you show is very heartwarming, but we know that it's not that case everywhere, right? So the dreaded parked in front of a TV and left to just sit there. So, as a family member, how do you support your loved one, either in home or in a home, wherever that may be? How would home care or companionship come into play? How do you
I think it's just giving that resident or that client the ability to, even if you don't think that they're listening or they can't communicate and have a conversation with you, still have those conversations and, go for tea or coffee. Even if they're sitting there, it's a different atmosphere, right? If they're constantly parked in front of the television, they're not really paying attention to it. They're feeling lonely. They're feeling abandoned there. Just sitting and reading a book to them. It can be anything. It can be simple things. It's that companionship that they require. I mean, not all caregivers feel that way. They feel like they can't understand, but they're still in there and they're still hearing you and they're still understanding that there's somebody with them. I think don't let them feel left alone, right? And families do have a hard time not understanding their mother is like that anymore. But I think it's just having those conversations and talking about the past or, telling them that you love them. And it goes a long way, right? Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Just talking to them. I had a client who, when she saw her daughter in the flesh, she had no idea who she was, because in her mind, her daughter was still 12 years old or just a kid. And then being able to get her daughter on the phone, it was actually the best visits were on the phone because she recognized that voice. She knew who she was. And so when her daughter would come to visit, we came up with this plan to have her talk to her mom from behind. So she would come in and we would say, there's someone here to visit you. And I would sit in front of them and then I would say, who do you think it is? I'm just look at me. It's a game. So her daughter would start to tell stories about her growing up and in that time that her mom was experiencing with her. When she was little, do you remember when we went to the river and we used to swing off of that tree and then I swung out and I hit my head on a rock and you thought I was dead? And her mom was like, oh, I was scared. And so they were telling these stories and it was a beautiful sort of remembrance of the childhood. And then the daughter put her hand on her shoulder and that was the moment that her mom reached up and there were tears. And I'm totally professional and I wasn't crying either, but that connection that they had in that moment and that fleeting moment that they had was then changed. And she turned around and saw this woman she didn't recognize, and she walked away. So it went from, and the daughter was just so heartbroken, but it's that moment that we all live for, those the little moments in between where dementia is washed away and we can see who that person is. And those are those beautiful moments of being a caregiver and being a family member. And yes, it's all grieving. It's grieving the loss of this person day in and day out, and being able to see who they are in those little moments of sunshine in between it's just immeasurable. But it's not an easy road. We can paint a picture of it being these beautiful moments connected, but education is so important for the family members so that they know what to expect and how to approach their loved one that they've known their whole lives.
And support. Seek support, right? Like, find a group that you can chat with. Find just someone else that you can just go through and share good and bad, right? It's so important that we reach out to, other people to support us through this.
Yeah. The Alzheimer's groups are absolutely wonderful. They meet online. There's often in person as well, but there are other caregiver groups out there depending on what type of dementia your loved one has, or just an overarching caregiver support group. Like you said, you're not alone. It can very much feel like that, Jen. Like you had said, when someone's having these behaviors, their spouse, their kids, they're embarrassed, so they don't go out, and it's so isolating because you feel so alone. Being able to reach out, get that education, get the support from other human beings that are going through it, and those, turning to your caregiver like Jen and saying, hey, this is what's going on, and I don't know how to get them to realize that the bathroom is here. We used to have a dementia unit that had a tree painted on the door. The doors, so they wanted to be a circle, but the doors that came and went, they had murals, and every farmer we had come through the place, or anyone who worked out in the woods, would use that tree as a toilet. And so it was perpetually being cleaned underneath it. So how do we get them to recognize that the toilet is over here, and your loved one is saying, well, they keep going in a wastebasket, or they get angry until it's too late, and then we have an issue with toileting. But how do we do that? And having those conversations that can be very embarrassing to have with a non-professional. So turning to Jen or somebody like Jen and saying, hey, what do we do here? How do we troubleshoot these things? Because it isn't something you're taught. It's not something that you go through education in high school to care for a loved one. You're always just dropped in it. So reaching out, like you said, and connecting with groups and connecting with other people, getting that education is really important.
Yeah, we used to have a support group for the families where we would meet, once a month. As families connect, they were able to talk and have that connection as well. Because you don't always want to reach out to it. You feel like you don't have the time to reach out to a group, but this kind of gave the families a chance to connect, and the families were friends with each other in the facility that I worked in, and it allowed them to have that companionship as well.
Yeah, community really is key. It takes a village to raise each other up, and creating that safety net, whether it's physical, having hands-on care in the home, like in-home supports. You need to create that safety net in order to keep yourself healthy. Some of the research that I was looking at was 40% of folks that are the primary caregiver for loved ones with dementia pass away before the person that they're caring for, just because they don't have support, they don't have time, they can't look after themselves. They're worried about keeping their loved one hydrated, but they don't care about keeping themselves hydrated. And then you're left with someone with advancing or advanced dementia living without a support person, and no one wants to see their loved one go into the hospital after they've passed away and have whatever care they can get their hands on. It's a bleak situation to not have that advanced planning in place. So knowing you need it too, you're just as important. Your nutrition, hydration, activity, socializing is just as important as your loved one with dementia, and supporting yourself before it's too late. That burnout is real, and you could feel it. feel it in the
For
room.
sure.
Yeah.
Jen, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us and share with our listeners regarding, this really sensitive topic, but very pertinent right now in this day and age before we thank you
I was
and
just going to
say
say, like, based off what
goodbye?
Liz was saying, ask for help. If you're caring for a loved one, don't feel like it's all on you. I know a lot of spouses feel like it's their responsibility to care for them because that's, they've lived together, but ask for help. As you said, burnout is real. Take that time for yourself. And when you start getting the care and the help, go off and do those things that you still enjoyed. Your life is not over. Just because your spouse or your loved one has that disease, that horrible disease, you can still enjoy your life and do the things for you because you need to do that. Kind to yourself.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah. Be kind to yourself. I like that. That's actually a beautiful way to end the conversation.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself. Yeah. Yeah. No.
All right, Liz, I have a couple extra things I'd love to chat with you about, but let's thank Jen for coming by and joining us today. And then hopefully we can have you back
Thanks
again
so much
very
for having
soon,
me.
Jen.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Jen.
Take care.
Great.
So, Liz, that was great. That was great conversation. Love hearing Jen, her empathy, her compassion, is so palpable. I think, that's really great. So let's roll back and let's talk about dementia care in the home. That's kind of our specialty. Um, I think everyone feels like it's a last minute or last resort to put someone in a home. So what does dementia care look like in the home?
In the home. Well, dementia care, like we said, it's different for everybody, depending on where they are on that trajectory, that journey. It's a matter of, again, just like Jen had said. Actually, we're going to touch a lot on exactly what Jen had said because she's got a lot of amazing experience. So being able to support somebody in the home is about finding out what's causing behaviors to escalate, supporting the loved one, the caregiver, the primary caregiver, giving them respite, even though they don't see the need for it. You'll often get a phone call from a child saying, "Mom really needs help. She's looking after dad. She's burnt out. She's not sleeping at night." A second someone starts waking up through the night, that's when things turn. Or when like constipation, bowel issues, bladder issues, there's sort of two major ones. Are you sleeping at night and are you still able to use the toilet? Those are the ones that I get a lot of phone calls from families saying, "This is too much for me now. I can't." Or their loved one comes forward. So being able to be that support network for them and that care in the home with dementia it's all safety oriented. We start with where can we keep this person safe? What are the holes in the safety plan? So when I go in, it's sort of like putting out a fire. You start with the hottest places. So are they safe is it an elopement risk? Are they going to wander? Are they safe making food for themselves? Like are they able to do their own personal care? Are we guiding them? So it looks so different. That dementia care in the home looks so different because we're all different. But really, at the end of the day, the underwriting of everything is that empathy and using your resources that you have available. So talking to the family, creating that care plan, looking after the person as the person that they are. I love having those in-depth conversations with families about who are they? What did they love to do? So I have a client that loves to take dogs for walks. He can't walk anymore. So what we do, he had a dog his whole life, but he doesn't have one now. So what we do is we go and we get a burger and we go and we sit down at the ocean and we watch all the dogs parade. So that's how dog fix, which I totally understand. But it's different. It's different for everybody. And just knowing that we're there to support the family member in whatever it looks like for them. So didn't really answer your question, Melissa, but there it is.
Yeah, I think there's I think people think that with a diagnosis of dementia, it automatically means they can't stay home anymore or that support is needed. Though I don't disagree that support is needed in one way or another, I don't think a diagnosis of dementia is a reason to start or even put someone in a home. Start looking, sure, absolutely, because we fully believe in being prepared for anything. But I don't think it means that they can't be home, even if that means they're home alone. We've had clients that, their spouse has passed away and they want to remain in their home. That's mom and dad's wish. How do we support them through that? And it's preparation, it's modifying the house, all these things that we talk about in any disease process, really, is not entirely unique to dementia. I think it's, like you said, keeping it safe, keeping it comfortable, and getting support for the loved ones that are supporting them. And that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did want to mention too, you know, something that I share with my caregivers and the team that supports me in the community is do versus do, right? I think so often because, there's that mentality of being rushed or that we need a task to be completed. I share with them, let's do versus actually do the task. Let's see what they're able to do. I know we talked about socks and what an accomplishment it was to put socks on. But it's any number of things, right? I would like you to help me with putting sugar into your coffee, something so simple, but allowing them the ability to do that themselves. In dementia care, I think we really take that same principle.
That cue, not do, and like you said, little tasks. So
Yeah.
Creating a care plan often will look completely bizarre. So it will be go into the laundry cupboard, pull out all of the face cloths and the pillowcases, the smaller items, bulk, mess them all up and put them down in front of the client and say, you know what, we've got so much laundry today. And so while you're doing the actual, putting away of the laundry, stripping the beds, doing the heavier work as the caregiver, your loved one is there doing the work that is also, needed to be done now. Maybe you're undoing things, but you're actually giving that person a moment of joy, and that sense of pride, and that those feelings are still they live inside of us until the day we're gone. So feelings, not feeding memories, but feeding those feelings. They're going to remember how your face looks and the feeling that comes with it. And like Jen said, you may look like somebody they hated and it's just not there for you. I apparently look like everyone's aunt. So usually aunts are pretty chill people. So I'm lucky there, but, I got aunt face. So that's good. I've only had one person that hated me on site. So clearly terrible, terrible aunt. But knowing that you're not going to be that perfect person for everybody all the time. And giving it's always about giving back a little bit of that person as much as you can that day. So it may just be putting music on and having them tap their foot. And that's what meaningful participation is for them that day. Different. You got to roll with it. You got to be able to roll. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's a valid point, rolling with it, because I think any change in an environment for, someone who's suffering from dementia can have an impact. I think I'm not really an energy person, but I think there's an energy that can be felt by someone who is suffering from dementia. Their senses almost change to be more heightened in certain ways with the loss of the senses in other ways. We often talk about a full moon and, set the moons. That might be what happened. But I think there's so much validity to that. Any change in their environment, maybe it's even a loved one moving into their house with full, good intentions, but that energy shift in the house, it's not their house. It's not their routine. It's not the way that they would like it or have grown accustomed to. And that shift, changes. And so often too, I mean, we see people go into hospital and, a diagnosis of dementia in hospital is like the worst case scenario, right? It's overstimulation. It's a schedule that's nowhere near what their schedule at home is like. It's strangers all over the place, and it's a change in the people that care for them. Like, my goodness, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And
I
I think
find
that's a great time to bring in a companion.
that's what I was thinking, is
Help.
having people at the bedside, because they can keep that person calm and oriented to what's going
Yeah.
on, and then read to them, put the music on, make sure that a lot of folks, they have they can even be on restraints, that sort of thing. So making sure that they're not, I know, either chemical or physical restraints definitely are part of that dementia in hospital, which is absolutely heartbreaking, because it's really not necessity. And then oh my gosh, I mean, I could complain. That's my jam. So, but knowing that we have a caregiver at the bedside that is in tuned with dementia and what to look for, and what it's, right now they're feeling agitated. They haven't gone to the bathroom in XYZ.
Yeah.
They're hungry. They haven't been able to eat well because the tray is in front of them, but they don't know how to take the lid off, or they don't, the cup is different from the cup that they've had before. And it doesn't trigger their brain to realize that, yeah, well, if I take the lid off, there's a drink in there. And knowing that if there's a one-on-one caregiver, and I mean, you can request it from the hospital, but staffing, I know, is really difficult all the time. It doesn't matter the department or the area of Canada, unfortunately, but staffing is really difficult. So that one-on-one care is often really, really beneficial for people that are in the hospital with dementia. I definitely recommend seeking somebody from outside of the hospital to provide that one-on-one care, even for blocks of time. Shift changes, shift changes, and
Yeah.
so new faces, people are checking on you every, all the time, waking you up during the night. So having someone one-to-one that can sort of be there specifically for that person's needs is a really important sort of key role in dementia in hospital acute care.
Yeah, for sure. And giving families a break. I mean, everyone wants to be there, but everyone has a life outside of caring for their loved one. And giving those families that respite and that time away from what is very overstimulating to everybody and frustrating. And, I think that's where a companion in hospital, in home, whatever that may be, I think is so beneficial. And many of our companions actually, in conversations with families, I think we talk about, well, I know I talk about it, is how do I keep a companion that's a companion today, but tomorrow may take on some care pieces? I think that also is a really important piece of the discussion, so that maybe we don't have to change up the caregiver that's coming into the home. Maybe we start with a companion that has the healthcare capabilities, and then knowing that personal care may become part of it, we're able to anticipate that and make sure that we're staffing accordingly. I think gaining those nuances and having the ability for us to be able to predict what that's going to look like and prepare for those transitions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about continuity, knowing. Yeah. And that's why that care planning is so important. I know I've been on about it, and it's our nurses' bread and butter, but care planning is so important, because picking up on the little nuances of what they need, when and where, and we can reduce, what we call responsive behaviors, which is that aggression or agitation,
Yeah.
wandering. When someone's wandering, they're looking for something, they're feeling lost. So being able to talk to them and even just give them a broom. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if they have a broom, they're doing a thing. Their brain is occupied with something that they feel is important. So, care planning and just being a part of that client's journey, and the family's journey, and keeping communication and continuity and all of that in place is really important. That's the beauty of
System staffing.
Yeah, yeah. That's the beauty of having a private company. Unfortunately, the government sector cannot provide. It's just not something that's anywhere near a capability of such a large number of people. But hiring privately, you can have that increased continuity, so that you know that your caregiver is there, and you can leave and you can go for a swim or a coffee, or you can just, you can go for a walk in the woods and you can cry. You can be with your friends. You can do whatever it is that your body needs that day, and know that there's somebody there that is capable and kind and empathetic, and they know how to navigate this. So I think that's the important part of having that in-home care tips. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Liz, anything else you'd like to share today on this really, I mean, I know we can talk for days
On and
about
on.
it.
Wow. I know the two of us, it could just be like a game of ping
Yeah.
back and forth. Like, oh, I haven't
Yeah.
had this happen. How did you handle it? Oh, I did this. Yeah, for sure. We can go back and forth forever. And if people
Yeah.
want to outtakes, I'm sure there's going to be several of them of us. Yeah. So if this made the cut, then that's great. But no, I mean, I can bang on, and it is what I love to do. I love to help families navigate this dementia journey, because it can have beautiful moments. But yeah, but you know, if I can reiterate anything, it's reach out. You're not alone. You're never alone, and I know it can feel that way. Um, I know you're not able to go out and do what you used to do with your loved one. It's just not feasible, but you're not alone. You're not alone. And education is key. So reach out, create a new network, and know that there's support there. So don't let yourself drown.
Yeah, I agree. You can't look after someone else unless you're looking after yourself. So beautiful. Liz, it's been a pleasure chatting with you again. And my goodness, we are a week away from Christmas, which means we will not have a podcast next week.
Christmas.
We're going to take a couple of weeks break before we start working on episode 5. So looking forward to seeing you all then. Thank you for listening, Liz. Thank you for sharing. You know, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to chat with you. Let us be part of that team supporting you. Yeah, and that's about it for today, Liz.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Melissa. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. I love you to bits. Thanks for everything. Yeah.
All right.
And again, you need us. Goodbye, everybody.
Take care.